It's a Sunday session. Bitcoin's up over 2%, almost 2.5% at the moment. Trying to rally back up, and again, we're likely going to see a lower high. The only other thing I see possible is that we have a complex correction here, and that the wave 4 is not done. But still, again, as I continue to say, predict, we're going to rally up into the 90s. I told you we might get as high as the high 90s. Currently, we're at 91,000. We got up to right around 94,000. I don't think we exceed 98,900 right here. And again, if we have now started the wave 5, we should see a lower high if we're in intermediate wave 5, if intermediate wave 4 is now done. I've talked about the liquidation move back up here at great length and detail. Again, largest liquidation in history. Told you a massive sell-off was coming. I got it right. My signals got it right. I got the top right. All the people that got it wrong are telling us now the bottom's in, and I told you this is nothing more than a counter trend, and 80,000 is not the bottom. Okay, and we're going to eventually go take it out once this counter trend is done, and it may be done. We may be just getting a lower high and be in that wave 5 and sell off with the Fed as we've done at each and every Fed meeting. We did it over here. Here's the start of the rate cuts. We were still, oh, that's so bullish, and we went down and got the left shoulder. And then we got the head formation at resistance, and we turned off of resistance, and we got the largest liquidation in history that gave us the completion of the head, the right side of the head formation. And then we got bounce off the 200, and we got the final exit point to 116,000, the right shoulder, and the Fed came in and cut rates again in October, and that's so bullish, here we go, and the opposite happened, and we declined, and we saw this sell. Now we're about to have another Fed meeting next week, and we got to get another sell-off with it. Eventually, when the Fed panics in January, I think that's coming by January, I think you're going to get these sell-offs coming here right now in December, and then I think you'll get a rebound, and then I think you'll get more selling in January. But I think the Fed will panic, likely by January. If I'm wrong about that, a little bit later into the first quarter, February, maybe March, but I doubt it. I tell you what I think. I have the guts to do that. Most people don't make predictions like that. Like I predicted this sell-off of 40 to 50%, and I tell you where I think it's going, what month I think it's going to finish, what I think is going to happen. So again, stick my neck out and tell you exactly what I think. I've been right. I'm not going to be perfect, 100% perfect, because I'm at a disadvantage because I'm predicting things before they happen. Like I told you, hey, I think this is the top. I told you back at the top, I think that's the top. Evidence of that. I told you we were going to drop 40 to 50%. Why? That's what Bitcoin's done in the past when it's topped to kick off bear markets. Before the rally happened here, we hit 80,000. I told you, again, we were going to bottom. I told you before the Thanksgiving week we were going to get a bottom. That happened. I told you we were going to get a rally with Thanksgiving. I told you that, and that happened the Thanksgiving week. It may drag out after Thanksgiving going into the Fed meeting if the big institutions, the big institutional guns and the whales, they allow it to happen. The retail investors run it back up. The herd, they sell into it some more. So again, if we finished wave 4, then we'll get a lower high here and continue on downward for minor wave or intermediate wave 5 to complete 3, which I'll show you in a moment. I just want to mention that again, and I did a whole video on this, and I'll link it at the end of this video. And I also posted on King of the Charts on Twitter, formerly Twitter, now called X, about how we're going to see the unwinding of the yen carry trade. Now this was, people were so over leveraged. Everybody telling me, oh, no, nobody was bullish up here. Then why did the liquidation happen? Everybody was so over leveraged. And I told you a lot of money got wiped out and they couldn't push it back higher. And that's why, again, one of the reasons why we're bound for lower levels. Now then, December 19th, we're going to see the Bank of Japan likely raise rates. And on the X platform here, social media, I posted a piece about the yen carry trade unwinding and how it's likely going to create a sell-off with Bitcoin, crypto, and the stock market, along with bonds, and yields are likely going to rise. Talk about the yen carry trade, and what happens is investors, they borrow yen at a low interest rate, they convert the yen to a different currency, like dollars, and then they invest stocks and bonds. When a rate hike happens, it makes the yen more expensive to borrow, forcing investors to exit these leveraged trades. And it's the same thing that we saw with crypto. There was huge amounts of leverage at near the top, and that's why we saw the liquidation move, and we've seen this sell-off. And again, this is a leveraged trade. Again, it's borrowed money, stocks, bonds, and crypto. So the Bank of Japan raising rates causes the cost of borrowing the yen to increase, reduces the profit margin on the yen carry trade, and forces investors to sell their assets to repay their yen loans. We've seen the yen carry trade unwind also in the past with the yen strengthening, and we've seen yen strengthen against the dollar, and really that was present with the 2007 and 8 financial crisis. Added to the volatility, and they're borrowing money in, converting it, buying stocks, bonds, and crypto. Bank of Japan begins to raise rates. We start seeing the strengthening of the yen. They're going to end up selling assets to pay off these loans. Stronger yen makes it more expensive to pay off their yen denominated loans. So stronger yen and the Bank of Japan raising rates, it's going to force them to sell assets to cover their costs. We're going to have more volatility. Please support the channel with the link directly below that allows me to be able to provide you this information. If you like the charts, you like the indicators, please let me know that by supporting the channel today. If you could take a moment to partner with me, I'd appreciate that. Most YouTube channels get sponsors, send you to exchanges that want to get you all leveraged up to wipe you out, or exchanges that end up going belly up. So I choose not to do that. Send you to websites that want to sell you something. I just ask that you partner with me, and if you like my indicators, the indicators that have been nailing it, the indicators that got it right, please consider supporting the channel today. Follow the link below to take you to a secured site. You can donate any amount you want. I thank you for your consideration for that. Watch the video all the way through. We're talking about the rally, what's going on right now, where I think we're going, give you some target levels short term to the upside, the downside. Again, we've had this death cross that's likely ushered in the bear market. Again, I've had confirmation in the daily, the weekly, and the monthly time frame, not just with this death cross, but with other signals I've talked about. If you've watched my recent videos, you know what I'm talking about. If you haven't watched my recent videos, then you're clueless to what I'm talking about. You should go back and watch those videos because I explained the confirmation of the bear markets each time frame. Now, again, we're likely getting what we had over here. You dropped 52%. You moved further away from that 200 period. Eventually, you move back to the 200 period moving average. So I think, again, you're going to move further away from the 200, eventually move back towards it. And maybe that's in the 90,000 range, maybe just above 100,000 by the time we reach it, if it goes flatline like it did over here. Actually, when we dropped it, it started to flatten out, and then it turned back up, and then it kind of rounding top here, but likely drop down to 74,000. Probably take it out, try to bounce, and then end up going a little bit lower, again, closer to 63,000. I don't know that we reached that level. My target's between 63 and 74,000. I think you're going lower, and then I think you'll eventually rally back up to that 200 period. And I think you have what we had over here in place right now, a bear market. I have confirmation of that people still in denial. They believe this is a bottom. Will drop lower. They'll become convinced that the next bottom is it. And again, we're probably going to continue to drop 2 more times into January. Then they're going to tell us this is it. This really is the bottom, and we'll get a massive counter trend like what we had over here. This is 46%. I'm predicting we'll get about a 45 to 60% rally up to a Fibonacci retracement. See how it works out. Wherever the 200 period comes in at, right now it's still above 100,000. So you got a shot at Bitcoin rallying back up to above 100,000 if we end up getting a bigger counter trend to the 200 period, which if it's still above 200,000 by the time we reach it. So you still have that shot at going above 100,000 with Bitcoin, not above 116,000, which was our final exit point, to a new high above 126,000. Watch the video all the way through. Important stuff going on. So I think there's going to be more volatility with the stock market based on the unwinding of the yen carry trade. I think that we'll see the Fed, likely a Fed sell-off, which historically in 2007 anyways, we started getting the rate cuts. The market didn't bottom until it dropped over 20% and the Fed started doing jumbo cuts. I think you're going to see the same thing with Bitcoin. We have no bullish diversions on the RSI. We have no bullish diversions on the awesome oscillator. I think you're going to end up getting when you're forming a bear flag. Maybe it's done, maybe it's not. I don't think you go above 98,900, as I've said. If you do end up trying to get a bigger rally, but you're likely going to come down to 74,000 here before all is said and done, and probably take that out slightly and then try to get a bigger bounce, which I think will complete the wave 3, and then we'll get the wave 4. Again, as we've dropped 36% so far, I don't think it's over until you drop 40 to 50%. 41% is down here to our April low. I got very bullish down here because we hit support and we hit Bitcoin's average price. I got very bearish up here because we hit resistance. Bullish divergences and bullish signals down here. We had bearish signals and bearish signals, reversal signals up here. Is no bullish divergence. We're still pegged in the negative region below 50 on the RSI. There's no bullish divergence on the MACD. This is likely not going to be able to get above 98,000, and we may have already, as I talked about in my last video, may have already seen the peak here, and this is just now setting up the lower high in a minor wave 2 counter trend in our intermediate wave 5. Again, I told you the pull-ups here, the rallies will give us the pull-ups towards the 50 level. We saw sell-off there with that. Again, if we do end up going higher, your form of divergence just above this level, resistance at the 96, 97,000 area, if you do see that happen above 94,000. But again, as I've said, I think you could see a lower high. I'll show you on the 4-hour chart. Have more resistance here at 96,000. If we do try to go above this 94,000 area, and again, we've seen resistance ever since the liquidation move. We've seen resistance here, just as I saw it back over here. Now, Bitcoin's up just slightly over 2.5% right now. If it does go higher, again, you still have the bear flag. It would just be more of a complex correction. If it's done, if we've peaked over here, as I talked about in my last video, then we could be in our intermediate wave 5 here. So intermediate wave 3 being done over here, intermediate wave 4 being done, and now you're starting the 5 minor waves. 1, 2, we get a lower high here somewhere, maybe at this trend line right here from the more recent highs that we turned off of right there. Or if you get the other scenario, you come back up to one of these trend lines, you go higher, or maybe to the trend line including the shadow. In the daily time frame, I showed you the trend line here excluding the shadows over here. But I don't think you get above these highs over here at 98,900. So again, I think it's one of these two scenarios is likely in that we are now in our intermediate wave 5 and we're getting waves 1 and 2, and then we'll sell off at the Fed and get the wave 3 and go down to 74,000, 4 and 5, and eventually try to bottom around 74,000, probably just under it. Or if intermediate wave 4 is not done, then you form the larger bear flag at maybe go above the 200 or to the 200 here. If we get above the 200, then again, you can go to one of these other trend lines. Here we were just under the 200 period here in the 4-hour time frame. Here we just overthrew it. Here we turned right off of it. So again, here we turned off just under it. So do we get a lower high for minor wave 2? If I'm wrong and we end up moving above 98,900, then this would be the larger primary wave 4 over here. That would be my alternative count that we would be finishing primary wave 3 here. This would be the larger primary wave 4. I'm still of the opinion that we're in primary wave 3 and that this is intermediate wave 4, maybe done or not done, but I don't think you're going above 98,900, as I've said. And again, just telling you the alternative count, should we be able to push above 98,900? My guess is we're not going to be able to, and I think you're going to get these next 2 legs down in December and then another one in January, as I've said. I've marked this as primary wave 1, primary wave 2 here. The final exit point at 116,000. That was our right shoulder in the daily time frame for the head and shoulders. And then I've marked, after that 116,000 area, I've marked this as intermediate wave 1, intermediate wave 2, intermediate wave 3, and now intermediate wave 4 may be done here or here. And then I think you'll get intermediate wave 5 down to finish primary wave 3 and then the primary wave 4. I think that takes us to 74,000 under 80,000, and then I think you get that final push down into January, into a January low. About MicroStrategy being removed from Tech 100, other indexes that could create or selling for MicroStrategy, and again, that could put additional pressure on Bitcoin. That's got to happen by January 15th. Once they reach some kind of deal, they're in talks. MicroStrategy is in talks right now to try to prevent that from happening. So we'll see what happens. Guesses you probably have wave 2 here, or wave 4 is not done. If we have the wave 2, again, this looks like a 5-leg push lower here, and if it's done, you've got the wave 2 going on. Again, maybe we tag that 200 period, but again, if we got the wave 2, we're not going to go higher than this 94,000 area. If you do, then you have a complex corrective move. If you move above 98,900, then you likely have your primary wave 4 rather than intermediate wave 4, as I've talked about. Now, I got a reversal signal here. But just after that bottom, I talked about that. And again, if this is done, and now we've seen the bars turn back to bearish, if this is done, we get a lower high, then eventually we come back and take out the support zone, this low right here, and this low right here at 80,000. Beautiful signal at the top, by the way. I talked about those signals back when they happened. Now, if this signal is just a short-term pullback, we'd have to see a signal turn back to bullish if we're going to get the larger bear flag pattern, if we're going to try to exceed this 94,000 area right here and up and hit the 200 period moving average on the 4-hour chart. So right now, I'm looking to see, do we get a lower high? Do the signals remain bearish here, or do we get a bullish signal? Canceling out this signal for the short term, or maybe you get back-to-back signals. Again, let me say that if we do end up getting more of a complex move and going a little bit higher to get a larger bear flag pattern, you could get back-to-back signals. My guess is, though, we either have a lower high that we're getting wave 2 of intermediate wave 5, or you're not done with the wave 4 yet. One of those two scenarios, I think, are likely. Bars are going back and forth from bullish to bearish. Again, as we're going kind of sideways in this counter trend, forming a bear flag. Got a bearish signal here just before the peak. Again, if we do go higher, it would likely form a larger bear flag. It may be done if we get a lower high and go back and take out that support zone, as I mentioned. And that would be likely with the Fed next week here, or this week now as we're starting, but Bitcoin's close will not be until the close here on Sunday. Yeah, I've talked about this chart since the top here. Shortly after the top, I posted this chart. Again, we broke the rising trend line. We back tested it. And again, I talked about the death cross and talked about all this and drew this out and was completely laughed at, mocked, and called out every name in the book. But yet I've been right. And again, 74,000 is a 41% drop. You do what you did in the last bear market, you drop over 50%, you're going down to about 60,000. A 50% drop is 63,000. I think you're going to see this drop, and then I think you'll get a massive rally that will give us the right shoulder, depending on how high it goes, depends on how low we go. I think it'll likely not exceed 107,000, 108,000 up here. You might go into the 90,000 range somewhere where we're at right now, or you might go into the high 90,000 range, or you might go above 100,000 for that right shoulder. But again, this is forming. If we find a bottom here, 74,000, this thing measures down to 22,000 for Bitcoin. If we get a lopsided pattern, it measures down more than that. Those calling a bottom right now, Bitcoin's likely not going to get a tradable bottom that will be followed by a larger relief rally until it hits one of these two lines. The Fibonacci extension levels to the downside. The 1.5% Fibonacci is coming here just under our April low, near the 73,000 area right now. And again, in the past, that's where you've reached one of these two lines before you've gotten the bigger relief rally to complete the bear market, to complete the sell-off, to kick off the bear market, I should say. The 1618 Fibonacci level down here, closer to a 50% drop. So again, just pay attention. 80,000 is not the bottom. And eventually, you're not going to bottom until you come down to one of these levels, which are going to continue to drop, as I've said. This bear market sell-off will go down to at least 41,000, likely well beyond that. The head and shoulders, as I've said, measures to at least 22,000. But if we go lower here, it would measure lower beyond 22,000. But I think Bitcoin, again, is likely either completed intermediate wave 4 or about to complete it. You got a trend line right here that I've drawn. If we do go slightly higher, you might go just above that level, closer to that 200 period in the 4-hour time frame, closer to this trend line right here. Regardless, again, to me, this is nothing more than a counter trend. And I think that, again, you're going to get the wave 5 down here going beyond the 74,000, or I'm sorry, zoom out here, going to that 74,000, likely just beyond it. Then I think you'll get the wave 4 and the wave 5. And then I think you'll complete this 5-leg push lower, and I think you'll get a massive counter trend into the 90s or maybe above 100,000 towards our 200 period moving average, which is what has happened in the past. The bear market. So I think that it's likely going to be, and again, this is where I think the Fed will do the emergency cut. So this is what I think is going on. We're getting the rally I predicted. It's done. Maybe it's not. The shorter term price fluctuations are a little bit harder to call than the main movement. I called the April bottom, the day of the April bottom, the main movement was up. When I called the top over here, the main movement now is down. And you have shorter term price fluctuations along the way in both the uptrend and the downtrend. Again, I predicted that we would bottom, and a short-term bottom, and I predicted we get this rally with Thanksgiving. I was right. I got to get evidence that it's done by coming down and taking out the support zone, by getting a lower high setting up right now, seeing the sell signals play out. But this is what I think is going on. One of the reasons why I predicted this rally was because the Wyckoff model, we've been following it. It was suggesting we are going to get a bounce, and I think we've got that. But if we continue to follow the Wyckoff distribution model, the crash wave 3 is not done yet. We're going down to the April low over here, which, let me just zoom out so you can see it, the April low over here, probably just beyond it. And then I think, again, still could sell off into a January low. And that's where I think the Fed will end up panicking. But the stock market has to play up. So I think Bitcoin's going to end up going lower December, get a rally, and then another leg down in January, as I've talked about. Market has to play catch up in order for the Fed to panic. Bitcoin has got to go lower. I think you'll see a divergence end up setting up here in the daily time frame on the RSI before all is said and done. Again, we're just pulling up previously here to the 50 level, turning down off of it. If you do go higher, maybe you get a divergence and move closer to that 200 period moving average in the 4-hour time frame. But if you get a lower high, then you're likely in that intermediate wave 5. And again, there is no bullish divergence. So 80,000 is not the bottom. There's no bullish divergence on the RSI. There's no bullish divergence down here on the MACD. If the counter trend is already done, you should set up a lower high here. If the wave 4 is not done, then again, you'll likely move into the upper boundary of the bear flag channel that we saw in the video in the 4-hour time frame.